Everyone. Okay, good morning, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving weekend. Today, I would like to walk you through a structured overview of the main instruments available for retirement in Canada, and realizing uh, what Ronnie mentioned before, that some of our colleagues today are not from Canada. I apologize in advance as I'm about to throw a bunch of Canadian investment terms at you. Uh, but whether you are freelancing, uh, working full time, or working in a contract setting, uh, or you may be running your own business, it's never too early to understand how retirement works in Canada and start planning for income after retirement. So today, I'll divide these instruments into four categories, and they are government programs, personal investment accounts, employer pensions, and corporate tools. Now, we are on a time constraint today, so I will focus mainly on the first two, which are government programs and personal accounts. So first, let's look at what government programs are available. The foundation of Canada's retirement system is built on three public instruments: Old Age Security, or OAS, Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS, and the Canada Pension Plan, or CPP. First, let's look at old age security. OAS is a tool that began in 1952. This is a monthly payment that you'll receive starting at age 65, as long as you have lived in Canada for at least 10 years after age 18. OAS is not based on how much you've earned, it's purely based on how long you have lived in Canada. And the people who are eligible are citizens, permanent residents, and protected persons. Those who are not eligible include tourists, temporary visitors, and undocumented individuals. Now, as of October of this year, the amount you receive if you have lived in Canada for 40 plus years is $740 per month. That is the maximum. If you have lived in Canada for under 40 years, but over 30 years, you will get 75% of that amount. And if you have lived here under 30 years, but over 10 years, it's only 25% of that amount. Here's an interesting thing though. If you have lived in Canada for 20 plus years, you can actually move away and no longer live in Canada, and you will continue to receive OAS indefinitely. And also, once you turn 74 years old, the amount you get goes up by 10%. Now, there is an interesting concept here that everyone has to be aware of, and it's called clawback. Once you turn 65 years old, some people may continue to earn an income. And for those that earn high income, they may experience what is called a clawback. And it could really throw some people off at tax time. The income you receive could be from work you continue to do, it could be from your pension, or from dividends. But whenever you exceed the minimum clawback amount, the government will actually calculate 15% of whatever you exceed this threshold by, and you have to pay back the amount at tax time. So what this means is they will take whatever the threshold is, which what I mentioned before, it was $740 per month. If you go over the threshold by 15 by any amount, they will calculate 15% of that threshold. And when you file your personal taxes, they will ask you for that amount back. If you end up making a lot of money still after age 65, you may end up having to give back your entire OAS, which by this year's calculations is $8,880. So for people that still earn a very high income, you have to be very careful and you have to be prepared ahead of time if your income goes over a threshold, and because you may have to pay back a lot of money at tax time. So this is something you have to be aware of. And this is the summary of basically old age security. So now let's move on to the next tool, which is guaranteed income supplement. Guaranteed income supplement is for low-income seniors who are already receiving old age security. This tool began in year 1967 as a top-up tool for low-income seniors. In 2025, if your income is under $22,400 a year, you qualify for GIS. Now, actually, there are different thresholds. The 22,400 is if you are single, widowed, or divorced. If you are in a married or common law situation, this income threshold can be much higher. But I won't list those numbers here for the sake of time. But if you earn $5,000 or less per year, you will get the full GIS benefits. And that means you will get $1,065.47. Now, when your income exceeds $5,000 per year, for every dollar that you exceed, including from your OAS payments, the government or CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, will take away 50 cents from your total GIS payments for that year.
Vai pegar 60% do seu...
There is a formula for this, but just know that if you end up making $22,400 per year, you end up getting no GIS payments. As I mentioned before, this threshold is different if you're in a married or common law situation, but just know that GIS is meant to be a supplement tool for people that need additional income on top of OAS, and not for high income individuals. There is a clawback system for GIS as well, but it is a little different from OAS. I mentioned before that the OAS clawback is calculated at tax time. For GIS, it's actually based on your previous year's income. The government looks at your previous year's income from July to June and calculates how much they would give you for GIS for this year. And if you end up exceeding the income threshold that I mentioned before, which was $22,400 for individuals, and then your GIS payments may be clawed back when it comes tax time. So beware of this as well. Finally, there is the Canada Pension Plan. This is the part that doesn't actually require a lot of discussion because it's almost an automated process. Canada Pension Plan, or CPP, is based on how much you have earned and contributed through your work life. If you work for an employer and receive a T4 form, that means that you are paying into CPP and your employer is actually matching your CPP payments. And once you've built up Canada Pension Plan, you can start drawing the money out as early as age 60 at a reduced rate, or delay up to age 70 for a larger benefit. But the average age that people start drawing this benefit is age 65. The amount that you're eligible for as CPP payments is dependent on your highest earning years and how many years you have contributed into CPP. The maximum benefit at age 65 in year 2025 is about $1,364 per month. But most people in Canada actually get less than this. The average in Canada is about $770. When you work for an employer, the first $3,500 you earn in the year is not subject to CPP. But if you earn more than $3,500, up to the amount of $68,500 in the work year, that is the yearly maximum, then you will pay 5.95% towards CPP. This is taken away automatically before the money gets to you in way of salary. And your employer has to match this 5.95%. All employers must deduct CPP payments from their employees from age 18 to 69, as long as you make more than $3,500 per year. The number that I mentioned before, 68,500, that's the higher cap. Once you make more than that, they don't take CPP deductions from that amount anymore. But essentially, from age 18 to 69, you have 47 working years, and the way CPP is calculated is that they take 39 of your best working years to determine how much CPP payments you're eligible for. Now, there is something interesting here, as most translators and interpreters work in a self-employed situation. You have to be aware that if you declare your income as self-employed, you're actually making 11.9% contribution to CPP. And this is mandatory and is calculated at tax time. The reason why it's 11.9% is that it's 5.95% from the employee side and 5.95% from the employer side. When you're self-employed, you are both the employee and the employer, and that's why you have to make a much higher contribution, and it is mandatory. The CRA will take this amount from you when you calculate your personal taxes. And that is why sometimes when you declare self-employed income, it may feel like you're paying so much higher taxes. But the good news is at least you are still making contributions into the Canada Pension Plan. So these are the government programs, and I will now spend a few minutes on personal retirement programs that you can look into. And there are two major ones in Canada, which is the first one is the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, or RRSP, which is an older program, and the tax-free savings account, which is a newer program, or TFSA. Now, RRSP is a retirement tool that began in Canada in 1957. The contribution room of this is how much money you can contribute into RRSP. This year, in 2025, is 18% of your income, up to a maximum of $31,560. Now, you build this contribution room every year. If you don't use it, you can carry it forward indefinitely. So your contribution room will continue to grow, and whenever you earn more income, you can put money into your RRSP. How RRSP works is by reducing your tax bracket. Now, as everyone's aware that when you earn more income, you end up falling into higher tax brackets, and you end up having to pay much more taxes on your income. If you live in Ontario, there is provincial tax on top of federal tax. So if you earn about let's say between 55,000 to 100,000 per year, your total taxes end up being about 29%. And if you earn over 165,000 a year, that number goes up to about 41%. So these are the tax brackets you fall into. The way RRSP works is when you move money into an RRSP account, you're essentially reducing your total income for the year, which may put you in a lower tax bracket, and you can reduce your personal taxes significantly. And the money that you move into RRSP grows tax-free as long as it stays in that RRSP account. What this means is that you don't pay tax on it today, but whenever you take money out of RRSP, you still have to pay taxes on it. So this is called tax sheltered growth. As long as it stays in the account, it's tax sheltered, and you don't pay taxes on it today. But whenever you take money out, you have to pay taxes at that time. So it's actually called tax deferred growth. Now, you have to be aware of this crazy catch with RRSP. What if you want to take your money out? You can't just take the money out whenever you want, because there is something called withholding tax. This is a term in Canada that taxes you significantly whenever you want to use the money from RRSP. And this is based not on how much money you take out in a year, but it's just each individual withdrawal. If you take $5,000 out of your RRSP account, you have to pay a 10% withholding tax. If you take out between 5,000 to 15,000, that is a 20% withholding tax. And if your withdrawal amount is over 15,000, you pay a 30% withholding tax. This is significant. It's a lot of money that the government takes away from you whenever you take money out of your RRSP account. And this is not something that goes away with age. It's not that when you reach retirement age, let's say age 65, you can say, I want to take some money out of my RSP now with no tax consequences other than being, the amount being counted towards your income. No, you still have to pay withholding tax on top of that. So it sounds ridiculous, but the way to get around this is that you actually have to convert your RRSP into a different type of account. And this is called Registered Retirement Income Fund, or RRIF. You can do this anytime with your RRSP, but you have to do it by age 71. By age 71, all of your existing RRSP accounts must be converted to an income fund account, and the money needs to start coming out. And the way RRIF, the income fund, is calculated is that you can make minimum withdrawals of the total amount with no tax consequences. Well, it still counts towards your income, but there's no withholding tax, the 10% to 30% that I was talking about. If you do this at age 55, you can only take out 2.86% of your total RSP value, which is already converted to RRIF, but you can only take out 2.86% of the total amount without incurring a withholding tax. As you age, the amount goes higher. By age 70, you can take out 5% of the remaining total value without a withholding tax. By age 90, you can take out about 11%. But this is actually a very controlling amount of your RSP, and it means that you cannot access your money easily. So it doesn't sound like it's a good idea to have your money locked away and having to pay significant taxes on it, unless you take out a very limited amount. So how do you get around this? And this is where I want to really introduce an exciting tool that became available to Canadians called the Tax-Free Savings Account, or TFSA. TFSA began in year 2009 by the Conservative Party of Canada. It is designed to offer Canadians a way to grow their money tax-free. The contribution room for TFSA builds year after year. In the first year, 2009, Canadians were allowed to put away $5,000 into their TFSA savings account every year. And in 2025, the annual amount has grown to $7,000. But because this is a cumulative amount, every year this contribution room grows. It means that in year 2025, if you open a new TFSA account and you have never had one before, you can contribute up to $95,000. And the cool thing about TFSA is that the money that you put in it grows completely tax-free. Even if you take it out at a later date, you don't pay taxes on it. This is an important distinction. And you have access to your money at any time. Whenever you need money, you can take it out of your TFSA, and there are no tax consequences. It doesn't count towards your income. It doesn't count towards OAS and GIS clawback, which is a very important concept. This means that you can take out $2 million from your TFSA account if you have the money, and you still may be eligible for the OAS or GIS benefits that I mentioned earlier, because it really just doesn't count towards your income. Now, if you take out any amount of money from your TFSA, the contribution room of your withdrawal is added to your next year's contribution room, which means if you take out $50,000 now in 2025, by January 1st, 2026, you will have the regular annual contribution of $7,000, plus on top of that, an additional $50,000 that you can add or you can put into your TFSA account to grow completely tax-free. But the money you put into TFSA is after-tax income. This means that when you move money into your TFSA, it doesn't lower your income for this year. It doesn't reduce the amount of taxes you have to pay. And this means people can only contribute to TFSA when you have free money sitting around after you process all your taxes, after you pay all your debts, and you have extra money left over. So that is the one catch with TFSA. If you are a self-employed or freelancing individual and your income is irregular, TFSA can be your best friend. because first, there's no tax gains on it ever, and there's no paperwork. There's absolutely no forms to fill out, nothing to do with CRA, as long as you stay within your contribution rule. And also, because you have flexible withdrawals, when your income is not consistent and you need extra money, you can take the money out to use. And next year, let's say you make more money, you can put the money back in. So this is why TFSA is great for freelance individuals. Now, there are 2 additional sections, but they are more for people who incorporate or employer benefits, and they may not be as relevant to our situation as interpreters and translators. So I will actually end my speech here as I've already gone over time. Thank you so much.